McDougall stream here. Today we are going to be talking about functions. This one will also be complicated. The next one will be on variables, but these are the two kind of main sort of building blocks for most of our scripts. And I think functions are really important to understand. And from doing Coding Club Level 1 last time, I found that I didn't teach this well enough. So I need to do that a little bit better. So let's make a game call. Actually, no, we'll just use our previous game where we have our player movement script and we have everything moving along. Hello, Georgie. You want to show everyone your artwork? This is Georgie's artwork. Very beautiful. Thank you, Georgie. All right. So again, just to remind you, at this point, we can do these things. We can move, we can jump, and we have a floor here. So this is our player movement script. Again, you can find that by going into scenes, player, and then player. And then he has this script. So our player looks like this right now. Now we're going to talk about functions. So already we have a function in our script. A function is something that does something more or less, and it needs to be called. Now the physics process function is called every single frame, or every single physics frame, I should say, by the engine. So it's automatically called. So basically the engine just goes through all your scripts and it's looking for any physics process or process function, and it will just run whatever's in that. So the nice thing about process functions or physics process functions is that you don't have to think about how you're going to call them. They just always are going to be called. So that's what that's the first thing about a function is you have to have a way to call it. Now there's lots of ways of calling a function. You can call functions in functions. So for example, we have this one, the move and slide function is being called. We have a function being called in an if statement. So every single frame, if we're not on the floor, which is a function, then we're going to do this function. So again, functions can be called lots of ways. This is a function. Functions are everywhere, and functions are super useful. So let's talk about functions here, and I'm going to do it in our player movement script. So to make a function, we type in func. So we're declaring that this is a function. Now we need to name it. We can name it whatever we want, but usually you want to name it what it does. So for example, teleport player. And then it's going to use these little parentheses and a line here. I'm just going to write pass. So this is a function. And you can tell by the name of it that it's going to teleport our player. Now we need to call the function somehow. So that's something that can be a little bit tricky to know how to do. There's many ways to do it. You can call a function by a button, for example. So we can make a button, and when we hit the button, we can do the teleport player thing. So let's just, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is by inputs. So for example, we can set up another one here, which is maybe after our move and slide. If input dot is action just pressed, and we're going to call it teleport, then we are going to run our teleport player function. Now we have to set up this particular thing. This is helpful to know how to do. So we can create custom actions by going to project settings, input map, and then we're going to add a new action called teleport, add it, and we're going to give it an event. So we get to decide what button is going to teleport our player. I'm going to just say the letter T is going to be it. So when I hit the T button, we are now going to activate our teleport player script. For now, I don't want to do too much with this. So I'm just going to say print, we teleported. Okay, so if we did this right, which we did, when we hit the T button, we are going to get a printout that says that we teleported. So T. Okay, so again, we still have our movement, and we now have our teleportation. Now we want to actually teleport our player. So we want to give a function does multiple things. First off, a function does something. So in this case, our function is doing this. Now, our function can do whatever we want it to do, but a function also can take information in and use that. So our teleport player function might want a couple things. So the easiest thing to think about here is we want to teleport our player to a location, to a position. So we're going to call it the teleport position. And this is going to be a vector 2. Now, we don't have to type it. So now we're just going to say, where do we want to teleport our player to? So now whenever we call the teleport player function, we now need to also say, well, where do we want to send our player? My thought is, very quickly, we want him to teleport in the direction that he's currently going a little bit here. So this is a little bit complicated, but we're just going to do this quickly. We have our velocity, which is where we're currently heading. So we want to teleport our player to our current position. So our player has a current position, which is the global position. So if we just pass this, we're going to do nothing. So we're going to say global is equal to teleport position. Okay, this is not going to change anything at this particular point, but we're just going to see that it's currently kind of working. And we're still going to print we teleported. Okay, so basically we're saying, okay, activate the teleport player. We are going to give the current global position of our player. It's going to take that in, and it is going to set the global position equal to the teleport position, which for now is the same thing. So if I hit T, it's going to say we teleport. Oh, I spelled it wrong. That's fine. We teleported. Now we need to think, okay, what do we actually want this to do? I would say we have a velocity, right? So the global position is going to be equal to global position plus velocity times velocity dot normalized times teleport distance. So we need a new variable here. I'm just gonna click this var teleport. We're gonna call teleport strength is equal to 100. Okay. Let's see if this works. So now, yep, whatever direction we're moving in, when we hit the teleport button, we just kind of teleport forward a little bit in whatever direction that we're currently moving. The only problem is that we might be able to teleport through the floor now. All right, no, we're getting snapped back. But that's pretty cool, right? So again, we could increase our teleport strength, and we would go further now. I don't know what happens if we have 0. Okay, we go nowhere. That makes sense. Oop, oh, we're gone. Can I come back? Okay, we're gone. Any case, that's what this does. Now, the cool thing is that we can call the teleport function in different ways. So, for example, and this one came up all the time in our version of Coding Club. What happens if our player falls off our floor here? So let's make our floor a little bit smaller here. We're going to scale it down. So we've got a smaller floor here, and then move this along. So now we can fall off the floor quite easily, right? If we fall off, oh no, now we're just going to fall forever. So your thought might be, okay, I want to go back to where I started. There's a couple ways to do that, but an easy way to do that is to start off by saying our player has an initial position. This is getting a little bit more complicated than I'd like, but you know what? Nope, we're going to do this differently. We're going to do this differently for simplicity for now. So we're going to make a new node, which is called we're going to get an area 2D. We're going to call this the out of bounds. And we're going to save out of bounds, as we've done in the past, into a new place. We're going to save it. So go back to scenes. We're going to call out of bounds, and we're going to save out of bounds here. So let's go to our out of bounds node. Our out of bounds node needs a collision shape. So we're going to give it a collision shape. And the easiest one to use here is going to be a world boundary shape. So this is going to be an infinitely long section of the map where if your player ever enters into it, it's going to do something. So let's go to our world now. We have our out of bounds. We need to move it down here. So now our out of bounds is this infinitely long section going this way and down that if we fall into it, we will now activate it. So we can go to this button, the node button, and on body entered is what we want here. So let's do on body entered. Now there's a couple ways to do this, which can get kind of complicated here. But let's do it the easiest possible way, which is that when we enter in, we are going to go to our player. Now, this is not the best way to do it, but we'll do it for now because it's the easiest way. So when we enter the out of bounds, we need to do something. So first off, we're going to just see if it works. Print, we entered. Okay, so now if we did this correctly, when we fall through, it's going to say we entered. Okay, so that's working. What we want it to do is we actually want it to call our teleport player function, and we want it to run this and put our player back at the place where it started. Now we can find that by going to the world and by using this little ruler mode here. And so this position is 481 and 245. So that's relatively close to that. So we'll say when we activate this, we're going to send our guy to a teleport reset position. This is a variable. We don't have to do it this way, but this is the easiest way to do it. It's a vector too. We don't have to do this, but we can. And it's going to be equal to, what did we say it was? 481. Say 480, 250. So 480 and 250. And then we're going to input reset position. Okay, so it's going to pass this. Now, we could also do it this way to show you that these are the same thing. We can pass it as just directly saying vector 2 and 480, 250. So we could do it this way, but I think it's a little bit easier to do it like this. Then, when we fall in, it's going to run this function. And so it's going to teleport us back to where we started. Yay! So what we're noticing here is that we're able to use our teleport function multiple different ways. We're using it when we hit the T button, and we're also using it when we fall. So we're calling the same function multiple times, which is kind of cool. This is a good way of thinking about it. What am I trying to do, and how can I use it in a way that is useful in many ways? Usually that's where these things come in, these augments and parameters here. So that's functions. You declare them, you give them a name, you input whatever you think you're going to need in that function. You don't have to do this. You can set this in different ways, but this is usually the best way to do it. If it's going to need information, just put it into the parameter so we can pass it in other places. Then we have the actual thing that we're doing, and that's what a function is. There's one more thing that a function can do, which is that a function can actually give information. So, for example, we can write a function that does something a little bit different. For example, func. Hi, Georgie. Are we singing a song? Sing with me. Yay! We can do a function called reset. What's the best one to do here? We want it to give out information. Trying to think of something useful in what we currently have. Well, again, these things already do this, like is on floor. So let's just have one called, and this is kind of useless, but we're going to write up another variable called, no, I can't think of anything super useful that we currently have. But let me just show you what it can do. So func is on floor custom. So I'm going to write this basically. This is not super useful to do, but it's okay. We can do it like this with this little arrow sign here and bool. So what this is saying is that this can send out when we call it, it's going to return either true or false. So to make it very clear that this is what is already happening, if is on floor is true, then return true. Else, return false. So this is the exact same thing as the is on floor thing, but is what it's doing. Now we can call is on floor custom. And we're going to get the exact same logic. We just made it more annoying. But this is what it does, right? It's saying if we are on the floor or not, then we'll do this. So if we're not on the floor, then we'll do the gravity. So functions can also be used to basically be equal to a variable. If not, and then in this case, true, then we'll do that logic. So let's see if it works. So again, yeah, we can jump and we're falling. So that's what functions are. Functions have a couple things. First off, we declare them. We give them a name. We can input particular variables that we think are useful called arguments and parameters here. And then we have to have this little colon here. Functions must be indented to show that they belong to that particular set of logic. They have the logic, and then they activate that whenever we call that function. For example, here or here. Almost done, Georgie. And then the last thing that they can do is they can also give out information like this. And that is functions.